Okay, so in today's workshop, we go over it's Gradebook, Assignments and Rubrics. So I show you some of the features. I start out in the assignment tool. Most of you, I'm sure, probably know how to create an assignment, but just in case there's someone who doesn't, I'll do one very quick assignment just to show how that works. But there are some other features built into the assignments tool that I'll show you. I'll then show you how to attach a rubric to an assignment or a discussion. Then how some of the things you can do in the gradebook, some of the great ways to do grading, and some of the settings that are built into the gradebook. So I'm starting out here on the assignments tool. Now, if you do have questions, you can type them into the chat, or you can unmute your microphone and interrupt. That's fine either way. But if you have questions, just let me know. So here I'm on my assignments page. I have a lot of assignments that I've thrown in here. There are a bunch of papers, there are discussions, there are quizzes. As you can see here, the more things you get, the more confusing this can become, making it hard for you to find different things. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to create assignment groups. Assignment groups are basically this here that says assignments. That is one assignment group that is automatically built into every course. But you can create as many assignment groups as you want. Like I said, they're good for organizing your content, making it easier to find things. Once you've added things to assignment groups, it'll show students a breakdown of how they're doing for each assignment group. So they can look and see, okay, for their assignments, they're getting a 98%, but on quizzes, they're getting a 57%. Well, then they'll be able to tell, okay, it's the quiz grades that are hurting my overall grade. So that's a nice feature. You can also set it up to automatically drop the lowest item within an assignment group. So if you put all your quizzes in an assignment group, you can set it up to drop the lowest one or two quizzes. So I'll show you how to do all of that. So to add my first group, I'm going to click on the Add Group button at the top. I'm going to give it a title. So I have one called Assignments. I'll create one called Discussions. And then I'll save. All right, so now we can see I have my new assignment group. To add things to it, I can just drag them down. So any of my discussions, if I click those little domino-looking dots to the left, that allows me to drag it. So here is one discussion, here is two, and here is my third. So now I have all of my discussions within this discussion assignment group. I'm going to add one more assignment group. I call it Quizzes. And then again, I can drag these down and put all my quizzes into this assignment group. All right. So that's how easy it is to create the assignment groups and move things into them. So one of the things I told you can do with assignment group is to drop the lowest scores. To do that, and I'm going to do it for my quizzes, I'm going to click those three dots to the right. I'm going to click on Edit. And now it's telling me, do I want to drop the highest score? Do I want to drop the lowest score? So I say I want to drop the lowest score. Now, one thing is built in too is the never drop. So if there's a specific quiz that's in this that you never want it to drop, you could click on this Add Never Drop, use the drop down and say, okay, I never want it to drop quiz 3. So say if this is some sort of a pre-quiz that you're just testing how much students know before the course starts, you really don't want that being dropped, you could come in here and choose that. So that's going to automatically never drop quiz 3. All right, and I'm going to X that off. I only have 3 quizzes, so I don't really want to do that. But by saying drop the lowest score, for each student, it's going to cross off in the gradebook whichever quiz they've taken that is the lowest. If they take another quiz and that becomes the lowest, it will automatically cross out the new lowest score. So this is a nice way to automatically drop if you want to. So I'm going to click on the Save button. All right, now here it shows me one rule, and if I hover over it, it tells me it's dropping the lowest score. So I can see there that I have it set up to automatically drop the lowest quiz grade for each student. One of the other things you can do with assignment groups, if you do weighted grades in your course, you set up the assignment groups, and then once I've got them set up, if I click the 3 dots to the right of where the Add Assignment button is, it says Assignment Settings. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to do Assignment Group Weight. I'll check Weight Final Grade, And then here I can set up my weighting. And so now here is, and maybe this would be a more accurate, oops. It does add up the number, so you can make sure you're doing your math correctly. And so now I've got 100%. So now when I save, it's going to automatically weight everything according to these percentages. So I just click on save, and now it's telling me that the assignments are worth 40%, the discussions are worth 20%, and the quizzes are worth 40%. So that's how you can set up the weighting if you do weighted grades. And then Canvas does all that math for you. So. Now I'm just going to quickly create a new assignment, just in case there's anyone who hasn't created an assignment before. When I add assignment, I'm going to have to give it a title. And so maybe paper 4. Here's where I would put all my instructions on what I want the students to do. How many points is this going to be worth? Here, now that I have assignments group set up, I can click this drop down and choose which assignment group does this belong to. And then I can select it right here. That way I don't have to drag and move it at a later point. All right, now we have our submission types. You have no submission, online, on paper, and external tool. External tool we don't use any longer. Online is if you're going to have them submit it through Canvas. On paper would be if you're expecting them to bring something to class and hand it in to you. That would be an on paper. That way the student knows they're printing something and bringing it to you. No submission is something like if you're having students do a speech and they're not really bringing anything to you, or a quiz that you're handing something out in class and having them do it, and then they're not bringing anything to class. They're not submitting anything through Canvas. So that would be no submission. Now, every single item that is in the gradebook is added through the assignments tool. Or if you create it, say, in the discussion tool or the quizzes tool, it's automatically added to the assignment tool. That's because you cannot add things directly to the gradebook. Everything gets added to the gradebook basically through the assignment tool. Anything we've created, that's how it gets added to the gradebook. That's why you have something like if I've got a quiz in class, I would do a no submission. That would be adding a column in the gradebook for me to enter those grades for that quiz. So I'm going to choose the online, and then with the options we have are text entry. That gives them a little box like this to type into. And that's okay for very short assignments, short amount of things that they're sending you, but that's not good for anything long because Canvas, it does not have a save for the students. So if they're typing an essay and they lose their internet connection, they would lose all their work. So text entry is only if you expect a sentence or two back from them. You can have them submit a URL, you can have them record something, audio or video, back to you. And then of course the most common is the file upload. There is a plagiarism review, which is turn it in. If that's something you're interested in, let me know, and I can send out instructions on how that works. You can do group assignments, and in one of my other workshops, I don't remember the title of that one, but I do show you how to do groups, discussions, groups, and peer review, I think is what that one's called. So, and that covers the peer review part of it also. So then you just have your due and available dates. And then when I'm finished, I'm just going to either save or save and publish. By default, if I save but don't publish, it will not show up in the gradebook, but I will show you how you can have unpublished things show up in the gradebook if you want. So now my assignment has been added. If I just go back to my main assignments, it was added into my assignment group because that's what I chose to put it in. So okay, so that's the basics of creating assignments and assignment groups. What I'm going to show you next is the rubric part. So first, are there any questions about the assignment portion of this? Okay, so say I want to add a rubric to my paper 1. Now the rubric is nice because students are seeing the expectations for this assignment, but it also, if you set things up the way I'm going to show you, it allows you to do your grading through the rubric. So when you go to your Speedgrader, which I'll show in a bit if you're not familiar with it, you can click in boxes and let it to do all of your grading. So hold on, it looks like I have a question. Oh, there's an echo. Yeah, that's probably it. If the, well, I'm not sure why I would have a, okay, so it's not everyone is hearing an echo. So yes, if the person having the actual echo, turn or mute your microphone, because that's usually what happens. Your microphone is picking up my voice, and then it's coming back through to you, to make sure you're. And if you're not sure how, right on this little thing there is a mute right here, and that will allow you to mute it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you if we want to add this rubric to my paper one. First, I'm going to click on it to open it up. All right, now we have this add rubric button down here at the bottom. Now you can add a rubric to a discussion also, and I'll show you it's a little different where you access the add rubric button. So I'll show you that in a minute. But for an assignment, open it up. This add rubric button is right there. All right, so I'm going to click on add rubric. Now one of your options you can do is if you already have a rubric created, you can find it. Now, rubrics cannot be just automatically uploaded to Canvas. You have to create it in Canvas, but once it's been created once, you can reuse it over and over again. So for this assignment, I'm going to show you how to find a rubric, and then in a minute, I'll show you how to create one to start. So I'm going to click Find a Rubric. Now, the first column are all the courses that I am an instructor in. And so I can go through and look for a specific. So I created the rubric I want to use in this course. Now this is showing me all the rubrics that are inside of that course. So I think this is the rubric I want to use. So if I click on it, it displays over on the right-hand side. So I can see, is this the rubric that I wanted to use? And I can say, yes, that is the one I wanted to use. So if I scroll down, and I got to, all of these need to be scrolled down, I'll have a use this rubric button. So I'm going to click on that, and then automatically this rubric has been added into this assignment. All right. So that's using a rubric that has already been created. I'm going to go back to the main assignment page, and we'll create a rubric from scratch. So here, say on my paper 2, let's do it on, paper 2. All right. I'm going to do add a rubric. All right, and now this time I'm going to create a rubric from scratch. And like I said, this is what you need to do the first time you do a rubric. Now automatically it names this sum rubric. You don't want to leave it as sum rubric, because then when you're trying to look later for a specific rubric, it's going to be hard to find it. And so I am going to give this a title, paper 2 rubric, just so it's something different. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind when you're creating rubrics, rather than what I've done here, rather than make it specific to a certain paper, if you keep things as generic as possible, that saves you from having to create as many rubrics. And so if I just do paper rubric, and then if I want to be able to use that rubric for every paper that I do, you can have more than one rubric, obviously, if you want to, but rather than having to keep coming in and making it too specific to this exact assignment, try to keep things generic, and then you can reuse that rubric over and over again. Just makes it easier for you. Creating a rubric isn't difficult, but it is kind of time consuming. All right, so we have criteria, we have ratings, and we have points. Now it automatically fills these in for us. The points is 5, either 5 points for full marks, 0 points for no marks, but we can customize this however we want. So first of all, I want each of these things to be worth, say, let's see, my paper 2 is worth 25 points. It should match that. So I'm going to say my first item is going to be worth 10 points. Now it automatically changed to 10 for full, 0 for no marks. Now, besides just full marks and no marks, I want something in between. What if they want partial marks? So if I click this little blue plus sign in the middle, now what is the rating? We had 10 for full, 0 for none. So say I do want it. It automatically recommends in the middle. So it recommends 5. I can change this to 4 or 6 or whatever I want. What is the title? I had full marks and no marks. And so maybe this is partial marks. I can get more descriptive here if I want to on what partial marks mean, but I don't need to. So I'm going to click Update Rating. All right, so now I have 10 for full, 7 for partial, and 0 for no marks. Now, like I said, you can change these to anything you want, but keeping them generic makes things easier for you later. And so now here, the description, what am I rating here? So I'm going to click on this little pencil. That's going to open it up, and rather than just saying description of criterion, I want to type in what is this row going to be for. And so for a paper, I'm just going to do, say, spelling, and then update. All right, so now my first row, it's worth 10 points. It's going to be rating them for spelling. They get 10 points for full marks, 5 points for partial, and 0 points for no marks. Okay. Now I want to add another criteria. So I'm going to click on Add Criterion. Now I have two options. I can create a brand new one, or I can duplicate the one I have already. If I create the new criterion, it is going to be automatically set up to be with only 2 options, full marks, no marks. It'll probably be 5 points because that's the default. But I want to have another one with 3 options. So rather than doing new criterion and then having to add a middle column, I'm just going to duplicate my spelling one. So I'm going to duplicate my spelling, but what is this one going to be? So say this one is for grammar. And then I'm going to update criterion. All right, so now I have a grammar one that matches that exactly. It's 10 points for full marks, 5 for partial, 0 for no marks. Because I kept these generic, I don't have to change any of these things if I don't want to. All right, now I'm ready to add a third criterion. I'm going to click on the Add Criterion. This time I'll do a new, so we can see what happens if I create a brand new one. All right, it's giving me, I have to type in a description here. So say maybe this is for the length of the paper. Have they made it as long as I would like? And then I'm going to create criterion. Now, as I said, this is the default. It's 5 points with only 2 options, okay? And my paper is 25 points. This is what I want as a 5-pointer. All right, so that is automatically now my 25 points match. If your points for your rubric do not match the points for the item, it will give you a warning and say, do you want to make the item, the assignment match the rubric, or do you want to leave them different? So it does warn you if you accidentally mess up and don't have the right number of points. But you can check. I see 25 points here, and then I see 25 points up here. So I see that they match. Now you can keep going and get as crazy as you want, creating as many criteria as you want. But I'm just going to stop here at the 3. Now, there are a couple of important ones here. You don't want to really do free-form comments. All that says is it will say grammar, and then it'll give a box you can type into. You can't do any grading that way. So that's really not used very often. If for some reason you don't want students to see points associated with your rubric, you can click the box and remove the points. I don't really see anyone really using that one. The important one here is this, use this rubric for assignment grading. If I check this box, that means that when I'm in my Speedgrader doing grading, I can say, okay, spelling, they got 10. I can click in the box for 10. Grammar, they got partial. I can click in the box for 5. Length, they got 5. Click in the box. And then it's going to automatically total those points up. If I don't check this box, I can still click in the boxes and it'll show, hey, they're getting 10 points for this, 5 points for this, 5 points for this, but it won't total those points up for me. I have to then manually add all the points together. So if you want the rubric to add up those points, you want to check this, use this rubric for assignment grading. All right. Now when I'm finished and I like my rubric, that's exactly the way I want it. I'm just going to click the Create Rubric button. That is going to create that rubric, so I can use it here for this assignment, and I can also access it later for other assignments. And it's not just in this course, in any course. Once I've created this rubric, I can reuse it over and over. So I'll click Create Rubric. All right, so now my Paper 2 rubric has been added to my Paper 2. And we're all set with the rubric part. Now for discussions, really quickly, I'm going to jump over to the discussion tool. You can add a rubric, but it's just done a little bit differently. So if I click on my Paper 2 rubric, or my Paper 2, I'm sorry, discussion, here it just brings up the discussion, but there is no Add Rubric button at the bottom. To add a rubric to this, you have to click the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to click Add Rubric. And then it's the same as before. I can find a rubric. I can create a rubric from scratch. I already have a rubric for discussions. So if I click in and I find the right course, okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking. This is where it's good to, oh, here we go, discussion. No, that's not it. But anyway, I would look through and find the rubric that I'm looking for. And if I could find it, then I would click on it and then use this rubric. So I'm not going to go through the whole process, but it's just, it works exactly the same. You just add the rubric in a different place. It's by, you have to click the 3 dots in the upper right and then choose add rubric. All right, so I have a question. Yeah, if you do the high scores for assignment result, it automatically just takes those points away. So that way you can use the rubric and students would see, okay, I got, you know, highest marks for grammar and I got the lowest marks for spelling, but it's not going to associate a grade with that. Yeah, so that's basically what, if you want to use the rubric so that students can see how they did for each item. Did they get a good, you know, they got the 1, 2, or 3, basically, if I've got 3 boxes, which one, but there's not an actual score associated. And a lot of instructors want to do that because they want to do more than just 10, say 5 and 1. They want to give some students a 7, others a 6. You can override what automatic grade is set, but that's basically why, so that it's not adding up points. You're giving a grade all on your own. All right, so do we have any other questions about the rubric part of this? And I'll show you how to do the grading with the rubric when we get into the gradebook. So, all right, so we're going to jump to the gradebook, clicking on grades. Now, one thing to point out really quickly in the gradebook is that sidebar with all your different tools is hidden. If I click on this 3 dots here, it brings it back. It just hides that so that you can view more on the page, because as you see, you have to scroll to see everything. So each column, there's a column for every item that you have. I've got my paper 1, 2, 3, all of my discussions, all of my quizzes. These here, assignments, discussions, quizzes, those are my assignment groups that I set up. So I have a column for each of those, and then I have a total grade at the end. And hold on, it looks like I have another question. TK20 is something that is built in with the College of Ed. I'm not sure who is the person that helps with TK20 at the moment. So I usually, instructor in the College of Ed usually helps instructors with that. It's something they use for accreditation, I believe. All right, so here's where I mentioned with our assignment groups. For this student, they can see that they've got a 96.67 out of all their assignments. Once I've graded the other things, the student will be able to see exactly what percentage of their total grade, how they've done in each of those separate assignment group categories. So, all right. Now, one of the things we can see on this page here is, this item here, this is my paper 1. This item has been graded. This student has turned it in, but I have not graded it. That's what this little icon means. And the dashes mean that it is not graded and the student has not submitted it. All right, so at a quick glance for this item, I can see that about for each of these different students. One really important thing is that a dash in the gradebook is not the same as a 0. If there's a dash in the gradebook, that means this item is not even being calculated into the student's grade at all. So if they should have turned in this paper and they did not turn in this paper, you definitely want to make sure you give them a 0. Otherwise, like I say, it won't even be calculated into their grade. It'll be as if this item does not exist for that student at all. Now, that's a way you can excuse a student that missed something that had a good reason. It was an in-class quiz. They were in the hospital at that time and couldn't take it. And you say, okay, I'm not going to make you retake it. You can just leave it as a dash and it'll be as if that didn't exist for the student at all. But if they didn't do it and you wanted them to, you need to make sure you enter a 0. All right, now we'll go into a minute what these color codings mean. That'll make more sense when we open up But the first thing I want to show you is the gear icon in the very upper right-hand side. There are a few settings that I want to show you in here. These are overall gradebook settings. All right, so one of the things we can have Canvas do is to automatically apply a grade for a missing submission. So if I check this box and then I enter a 0, I want students to get a 0 if they don't turn it in. What happens is once the due date arrives, if the student had not turned it in, it will automatically give them a 0. All right, so that you don't have to remember to go in. You can always override by excusing an item or something like that, giving them more time or whatever, but it's going to automatically give them a 0 so that if they don't turn it in. The other thing we can do is automatically apply a late submission policy. So if you allow late work, if you don't allow late work at all, you don't really have to worry about this. But if you want to allow late work, I can check this box and say, okay, I count 10% off for every day that this assignment is late. With the lowest possible 3 days late is all I'll accept it. So that would be a 70% would be the lowest. Now by doing this, what happens is if this student turns it in 2 days late, I grade it normally. I don't have to take into consideration that a deduction is going to happen. I just grade their paper. Is their paper an 87? Is their paper 100? Is it a 40? I just grade it normally as I would without even taking into consideration whether it was late or not. Canvas is going to automatically deduct 10% from that score that I give it for every day that it is late. All right. And so that is real nice if you do allow late work. So I'm going to click on update to set those policies. All right. Now I'm going to go back in here because I did forget. I always forget there's another tab here. The tab, let me get rid of that. Shoot. All right. So the tab is for grade posting policy. So I'm going to click on that and show you what this is. There are two options. One is automatically post grades. That means that whenever I enter grades in my gradebook, the students are automatically going to be notified right away that I have graded their item. The other is manually. That means that I enter all my grades. When I'm finished entering all my grades, then I release those grades to the students all at the same time. Now, there are two spots we can set our grade posting policy. This is for every single item in the gradebook. So do you want to have to manually release every single item in the gradebook? Then you would check this box. Most often, that's not what instructors want. Most often, there might be 1 or 2 assignments that are extra long. It's going to take me 2 weeks to grade all these research papers. And I don't, that's the only item that I want to manually release. There's a different way to do it. This is if every single item in the gradebook you want to manually release, then you would check it here. Like I said, most instructors don't do that here. They just do it for specific assignments only. So I'm just going to cancel. All right. So while we're talking about that, if I have just say my paper 2, this is a really long paper. I'll do paper 3 because it's not graded. This is the only item that I don't want students to see grades until I've graded for everybody. That way, I've got 2 people that are friends and I grade 1 today, and I'm not going to get to the other one for a week from now. You're going to have that student say, my friend got their grade, but I didn't get mine yet. So to stop that from happening, you would set this specific item to manually release the grade. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots here. All right, I'm going to go to grade posting policy down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to set this to manually. And it says grades will be hidden by default so that students aren't basically going to see it. So I'm going to click on save. All right, now I can drag this out so you can see it a little better. It says manual, but that means that it's, even if I enter grades here, those students are not going to see that grade because it is set for manual. Once I have entered my grades and I'm ready for students to see them, then I would go back in here, click on my grade posting policy, and then click automatic, and then save, and then all of those grades would be released to the students all at the same time. All right. All right, so now how do you grade? So I'm going to click in here. The easiest way to do grading, and this is if you have points only, no comments, nothing else to do. So say it was a quiz students did in class, and I don't have to make comments to it. I just have to enter the grades in. I'm just going to click in the box, And this is a basically like a spreadsheet. So I can say, okay, this student got 159. If I use the down arrow key on my keyboard, it brings me to the next student down. And so, okay, this student got out of 200, 198. And then click down. The student didn't take it, so I'm going to enter a 0. And so I can go through the gradebook that way. Now this eye icon popped up because I have it set to manual, and now that I have grades, it's letting me know that the students can't see this. So that's another way that I can tell that I have not released this to the students yet. That stands out even more than the manual, all right, so that I can tell students aren't seeing that. So that's the easy way if all you have are grades and nothing more, okay? And I think I started but didn't finish. Each of the items, rows are for a separate item, and then we have a row for each student. So another way you can do your grading, so say I'll do this for my discussion. If I click in the cell, rather than just typing in a grade, I can click this right-facing arrow that pops up to the right. And this allows me to see which student I'm training for student 1, which item, it's the paper 1 discussion, and then I can enter a grade here. It also gives me the option to leave a comment, okay? So I already added a comment I can see on this one the last time I did this training. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. Great job. Now the important thing here is this submit, all right? If I don't submit, this comment will be saved as a draft, and you'll see it, but the student will not. You need to make sure if you want to make this comment, you click that submit button, and then it will be submitted so that the student can see it. All right, and I can just enter in a grade here. Yeah, they did a great job. I'll give them 15 points, okay? Oops. Didn't mean to close that, so let me go back into that again. Now I can click the right-hand facing arrow, and I can go to my next student so that I can grade their item. All right, so you can go one at a time through each of your students and enter grades with this. It's called the grade detail tray. Now, one of the things I'll show you for this one, we have these color coding, so let's see what that is. I'm going to click on one of my students and click the right arrow. All right, we'll go to my next student that has that pink, I think it is. So that's telling me it's missing. So it's showing me that the student did not turn in this assignment when it was due. And so if this student had a good reason for not doing it, I can click on excuse, and that will excuse, so it takes that 0 away. Okay, I can override the grade if I want to also. Oh, it's not letting me here for this one. So, but anyway, the excuse does allow you, okay, this student is excused from, and so it will not give them a 0. And these zeros were set up when I had a grade posting policy before to give them a 0 if they didn't turn it in by the due date. That's why those are showing up. But for the other color coding, we can see, where is it? Sorry. The colors, nothing means they've just turned it in on time. There's no problems with it. It would be blue if they submitted late. It would be this pink or whatever that is if it was missing, and it shows up as yellow if it's been excused. So you can quickly look whether it be for a specific assignment or for a specific student. Let's see, this student is always turning things in late, or they're always not turning in things. You'll be able to tell by looking at the color coding for that student going across your row. So that's what the color coding is about. All right, so the way that most instructors grade things like quizzes, assignments, even discussions is by using the Speedgrader. Now there's more than one way to access the Speedgrader. One of the ways, and I'll do it for this paper 1 discussion, if I click on the 3 dots to the right, there's a link here to Speedgrader. So when I click that for a discussion, what it's going to show me is every single post this student made to this discussion. So rather than going to the discussion, scrolling through and looking for this student, how many times did they post, what did they do, this is just going to show me their posts and no one else's. That's a good way to see how much thought have they put in, how many posts did they make, seeing them all in one place. And then I can come over here and do my grading by adding my points and whatnot. And again, when I'm finished, in my Speedgrader, I've got an arrow here. I can click to the right and automatically takes me to the next student. Now this one I messed with before and I've used a rubric. I'm not going to go through that here. I'm going to show you with something else how the rubric works. But It's the arrow at the top allows me to go from student to student. All right, and it's telling me this student does not have a submission. All right, now it took me outside of the gradebook. I have to click this icon in the upper left that looks like a book. That's going to take me back to the regular gradebook. All right, so here I'm back in my gradebook. All right, so the other way you can access a Speedgrader is if I click on that cell, I click that right arrow to open up my sidebar, I can click on Speedgrader here, and that's going to open up the Speedgrader. So that's a different way. Now this is an assignment that the student submitted to. Now this is what I've done all my grading on, and I have annotations added to this. So I'll show you how to add annotations in a minute, but this shows you an example of the annotations. If students have submitted in a file as an assignment submission, you have the ability to add all these different, and these tools at the top are the annotation tools. We have a point annotation, we can highlight, we can write freeform text, we can strike out, we can draw, and we can do what's called an area annotation. So here are examples of the different ones we can do. If you hover over one on the left, the arrow points to, okay, this is associated with this comment, it's pointing at this one. So you can tell what comment belongs with which annotation. So if I hover over this one, it's the point annotation, the little blue bubble. And so that is a point annotation. I'm pointing at a specific thing and giving a comment about that. The box is the area annotation. I want to point out something about this entire paragraph, so I put the box around it, and then here it says as the comment, great opening. Here is an example of a highlight. I did not add a comment with that. I just highlighted something. So the comments on the right are not necessary. You add them if you want to. You can change the color of your highlighting. So if you wanted to do a specific, hey, I'm going to highlight things in blue that are misspelled. I'm going to highlight things in yellow that are problems with grammar, things like that. You could color code like this is. And then as long as you told your students which colors mean what, you would not have to enter a specific comment. But with the highlighting, you can enter a comment if you want to. Here's an example of a drawing. I drew a line around something specific, and again, I can add a comment to that or not if I want to. So those are the different types of, oh, and here's one that's cross out. I crossed something out. So those are examples of what those annotations look like. This student also has already been entered a grade and they already have a comment, all right? So I'll go to the next student and show you how to do all of these things. So, but one thing I wanted to point out here, the arrow to the right-facing arrow will take me automatically to the next student, but there is also a little drop-down arrow right next to that. If I click that drop-down arrow, these are color-coded. The green check mark tells me this student has turned it in and I have graded it already. Orange means it's been turned in, but I have not graded it yet. So if you've got a list of 30 students and only 2 have submitted, this is a really easy way to just automatically skip. You scroll through, find the next one that's orange, click on it, and you're automatically taken to that student to see their submission and grade it. All right, so here I'll go to my next student. Something has been submitted. It has not been graded. There are no annotations added, nothing like that. So this is what you would do with your, obviously the paper shows up right here on the left-hand side. I can scroll through and read the whole paper. From there, I want to add some annotations. So that's what I do here. I click on Save My Point annotation. All right, once I've clicked on it, I get to choose what color. And so say maybe I want to make this purple. I come into a specific thing and I point at it and I click. Now that point annotation has been added. The comment box automatically pops up over here on the right. I can then add my comment. I click the Enter key on my keyboard, that automatically creates that comment. Okay, so that's the point annotation. And I can put them wherever I want to. My next option is my strikeout. Nope, that's a highlighter, I'm sorry. And again, I have the option here to choose what color do I want to highlight in. I like orange, so let me highlight in orange. And so there it's highlighted. I can just leave it as a highlight and click somewhere else and it will be saved. If I want to add a comment to a highlighting, I click on the comment box and then I can add that comment. All right, and I did not add a comment, so it just kept my highlighting without a comment. All right, so the next one is a free text annotation. We don't really recommend that because what happens with this, it creates a text box and then you can type whatever you want into it. The problem with that is that sometimes that text box will be right over the top of the paper and they won't be able to read what's underneath. So if I add a text box here and set it here, it can hide things so that the students won't see what's underneath it. So that's really not, the other options where since you can add comments and whatnot are better options. So we don't really use the free text annotation. The next is the strikeout. So I click on strikeout, I choose my color, and then I cross out whatever it is I would like to cross out. And again, I can click this button to add a comment. All right. And again, they can, if they hover over the comment on the right, it points to what it's talking about so that I can click this not needed. What's not needed? Okay, I can see that that is what's not needed. The next is that free draw, where you can use your mouse and you can circle a specific thing. And again, you can add a comment if you want to. And if I just click away, not. All right, this one is making me check it since I didn't add a comment. Well, let's leave a comment then. Okay, and then the last one is that area annotation. This is where if I want to highlight or a circle or whatever, an entire paragraph or section. And again, I've got the options. I can color code if I want to. And then I can put a comment about this. All right, so this gives students specific feedback within the paper itself. All right, we have that assignment comments on the right where we can add additional like overall comments about the entire paper. If you accidentally, like here, I accidentally created a box. If I click on it, I can click that trash can and get rid of it. So I click somewhere, it added it on me. So I go, okay, so I got rid of that unnecessary one. This paper, I did add a rubric to. So I'm going to click on View Rubric. Now it's kind of partially hidden, but if I hover over this line in the center, I can drag this over so that I can see my entire rubric. All right. Now I'm not sure if this is set up to automatically, that checkbox I told you that's important to use this rubric for assignment grading. I'm not sure if it's set up for this one or not, and I'll show you how I can tell. So here I'm going to go through my paper. Okay, their punctuation was great, so I click on that. No mistakes. They had some grammar mistakes, so I'm going to click on some mistakes. All right, spelling, they had some mistakes, so I'm going to click on that one. All right, now it's showing me I did have it set up correctly. It added those points up. They've got a 20 out of 30 because it automatically checked. I automatically added those up. So this is where, if you don't check the box to use this assignment for rubric grading, it would not show me the total points. I would have to manually say 10 plus 5 plus 5 20. Easy enough here, but if you've got a longer rubric, you don't want to have to automatically or manually have to add those points up. So now they've got 20 out of 30. I want to click Save to make sure that that's saved. Now, one important thing here too we have this little comment box. And so I can click in here and then I can make a comment about this specific criterion. Something to do with, okay, what type, are they making the same type of grammar mistake over and over again? I can comment about that so that they know this is the specific mistake that they're making. Or say if I wanted to for their spelling, they're spelling the exact same word wrong over and over again, I can add that in as a comment. So that is possible to add a comment for a specific, criterion. Okay, and now once I'm finished, I want to make sure I click the Save in order to save those comments and save that. Okay, now here I did not check that box for this. It added my points up, but it did not put them in here because I did not check the correct box. It added it up when I was looking at it, but it did not add it up here. So that was Grammar 3.5. So it's showing me here 18, but it's not adding it into this box, so that I would have to manually add my 18 here. All right, now clicking to the next student automatically saves the grade. You do have to click submit for a comment, but for the grade itself, if I click to go to the next student, it automatically saves that grade. All right, so if I click back on my gradebook icon in the upper left, here I can see the student has now been graded. They've got that 18. Okay. And real quickly, I'm going to show you one of the nice things you can do here is click on a specific student's name, and you're going to see their version of the gradebook. So I click on this train too, and then I click on grades. That's going to take me into their gradebook. So if the student goes to the gradebook, this is what they're going to see. They're going to see any grades. They're going to see if I've made overall discussions. They see this has been excused, so it's not being counted. They've got an 18 out of 30 on this. Now, there are a couple of icons over here. The first one, if I click on it, it said see scoring details. By default, Canvas shows them the mean, the high, the low, so they can see how they've done compared to other students. I can close that. They can view the rubric. So if I click on the see results, they can see here, okay, these are the different points they got for this rubric. So they can tell the rubric. And then I'm going to close. One thing here to see is that I added annotations, and the students did not see that. This is one of those things that let me know I can send details on it, but the way that the student views those annotated comments is not easy for the students. If they've never done it before, they have no clue how to find it. So I added for paper 1 annotation comments. The student will have to click on the item to open it. They have to click on this view feedback button to the right, and then it pops up to where they can go through and look at all these annotations. So if you're going to be doing annotated comments on student submissions, you're going to want to share with them the information on how to find it. Let me know if you are going to be using those features, and I can send you. Canvas has a really nice guide page that shows students exactly how to find those. Otherwise, you'll have students at the end of the semester say, I never saw you know, those comments and whatnot. They'll be confused. So once they've had a course that's used it before, they know, but the first time they have an instructor that's using the annotated comments, you kind of have to help them out so that they know how to find it. All right, so I'm going to find my gradebook again. There we go. Okay, let's see, I have a question. Okay. Yep, I will definitely send, and I'll try to send it to everybody that attended the workshop. So let me write that down quick. All right, I'll just send that as a reply to all of the people that are attending this workshop. So, all right. So what are we going to do now? Okay, so by default, this is what our gradebook looks like. We have our student name. We have each of our different assignment, different graded items. And then we have our assignment group columns here at the end and our total grade at the very last. Okay, we can customize this however we want them. First thing I want to show you very quickly are I have my assignments page, which we had viewed, which has my assignment groups, assignments, discussions, and quizzes. If I go into my modules tool in this course, I have modules set up. Module 1 with some items, module 2 with some items, and module 3 with some items, okay? So I'm going to go back to my gradebook, and I'll see in a minute why that matters. I just wanted to show you how I have it set up. One of the things we have here is this view. If I click on view and arrange by default order. The default order, it's set up exactly in the order that they are on the assignment page. And so that's why each of these things, I have all my papers, I have all my discussions, I have all my quizzes. So that's the default order. I can order them alphabetically by the name of each item so that these are alphabetical. I can order them by due date, oldest to newest or newest to oldest, and it's automatically going to rearrange these columns to match. I can order them by points, either lowest or highest points first. Oops, excuse me, I lost my. All right, and the other way I can do it is by module. Everything in the first module is going to be first, or everything in the last module is going to be first. So I do module first to last. It rearranges these to, hey, these are the 3 items in my module 1. These are the 3 items in my module 2, etc. So that's one way that you can change the order of each of these items. Another thing you can do is just drag and drop. So if I want to compare 2 things, I can click on this and I can drag it over here and put it next to my paper 1 if I want to compare these things. How did they do on the first compared to the second or something like that? I can drag and move them. Now, one of the really nice things about this comes with the total column. We see the total column is all the way to the right, and our student names are all the way to the left. This becomes a problem when instructors are doing their grading at the end of the semester. So I want to enter my final grades in for the registrar, and I'm trying to follow columns across and see, okay, which it's this. So, you know, the more students you have, the harder it is to follow the line across. So what I can do, though, is take this total column, and I can drag it. You can only drag it as far as you can see. So I move it to here, and then I'll scroll, and I'll move it over further, and then scroll. Oops. And okay, so now I've got my total column right next to my students. So that way, when I'm doing my final grading, I can see train 1, okay, they got an 87.8. Train 2 got a 93.91. So this will help me when I'm doing my grading so I don't have to try to follow a column across. So you can rearrange any of the columns this way. If I leave and I come back to my gradebook, it's going to remember the order that I have them set up. So if I want them to go back to normal, I would have to come in here and arrange by and set my default order again. That's going to move it across. So if you change that order, it's going to move it on you if you did drag and drop things around. All right. One of the other things we can do here is to filter. I want to find a specific thing. Now this one isn't too bad because I don't have that many items, but with a regular course that have tons of things, it can be hard to find what you're looking for. Hold on, I see another question. How do you get the letter grade to show up? Is it in here? Nope. I thought that was the default to show a letter grade. And it might be in, let's see, hold on one second. No, I think by default it usually shows a letter grade. Some instructors don't want students to see that, so within the settings for the course there is a hide total so that students aren't seeing it. A lot of instructors do that, hide the letter grade if they've got things like they go by if you've earned 400 to 450 points in the course, so they're not doing it by percentage. They'll hide them, but I thought that the letter grade was an automatic thing. All right, I will check into that. I'm going to make a note on that, letter grade in total. I'll check into that and then get back to you. That way I'm not messing around looking while everyone's watching. So, okay. So here I was talking about filtering. So if you've got a lot of items and you're looking for specific things, you can use the filters to make things easier. Do I want to just view things that are in a specific assignment group? I'm going to choose assignment group. Here it's showing me all assignment groups in this drop down, but if I click on it, I just want to look at all the quizzes. So if I click on quizzes, it's only showing me the items that are in the quizzes assignment group. Okay. Now filters are remembered also. So if I leave and I come back tomorrow and I open my gradebook and I'm like, oh no, where's all my stuff? It's just because it's going to remember that filter. I have to come in here and uncheck assignment group in order to get rid of that filter. Modules, if I want to filter by module, and then I have a drop down and I'm on week 2, I'm going to click on module 2. It's only showing me the items in my module 2. So this makes it really easy to see. These are the 3 things that students are turning in this week or did turn in last week. These are all the items I have to grade. So the section as a filter. Let me turn that one off. If you have more than one section in your course, so say if you've combined section 1 and 2 of a course into one, by clicking on sections, and now I have a drop down all sections. So I have a researcher section. This is just a development course that I play around in. But if I click on that, it's only going to show me the students that are in that specific section. So if this was your section 90, you would have been able to choose section 90. It's only going to show you students in section 90. Then when you're done, you would go and you would click on to do all of the students in section 91. And again, it's going to remember that filter, so you want to uncheck it so that later you're going to see all of your students. All right, so that's one way that makes it easy to find specific things within your gradebook. The other options we have in here, if we click on the statuses, this lets you change the color for things. So if you wanted to change late to be a different color, you click on the 3 dots, you choose the new color and apply. So that's what the statuses is. Do you want to add a notes column? If I click on that, it adds a notes column that is seen by you, but not seen by the students. So it's something you want to remember. Hey, this is the student that's come in, 500 times for help. You know the student is reaching out for help and you want to remember that. You can see it on there. That way, if they discuss something in particular with you and you want to remember that with grading, you can add it in. That's basically what the notes column is. You see it, the student does not. All right, unpublished assignments. If I have assignments in my assignments tool that are not published, do I want to see them in the gradebook? If I do, I'm going to check that box. And now here you can see that red unpublished. I can see that, okay, I created paper 4, but I have not published it yet. That means students don't see it. But if I do want to see it in my gradebook, I can by checking that box. By default, you do not see the notes column or the unpublished assignment column. So I'll just turn those off. Looking here at this gradebook button, the main thing here is this gradebook history. The gradebook history is nice if you have a student contact you and say something like, I had a 10 on my quiz and now I've only got an 8. What happened? And you're thinking, I don't know what happened. You click on your gradebook history and you can narrow things down, but this shows you every single grading item that happened. So maybe you meant to give a different student an 8, clicked on the wrong box and changed one student. This is how you can tell. So you can narrow down by student, by a particular grader if you have more than one person doing grades in the course, by assignment. So you start typing, this is my paper 1 I want to, so I typing paper 1 and I can click on it and select it. I can narrow down by date. Once I've done some filtering, I click on that filter button. Now this is showing me every single grade that has been changed for my paper 1. Let me do a different one, say paper 1 discussion, something with less grading. All right, so here I can tell every single, who did I train, or which student, and then what happened. They had a 25 and they changed it to a 15. Oh, maybe that was a mistake. I meant to give a different student a 15. I would know, okay, guess what? I did mess up. I did give a wrong grade to a student. I can see that they had a 25 in the past, so that'll let me know that there might be a problem. Let's see, I have a question. You can set dates to for specific modules, set modules up to where they don't display to students until a different date. I actually have a modules workshop this afternoon. If that's something you're interested in finding out about, sign up for this afternoon. I'll be closing registration for that maybe half hour before it starts. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go to the workshop page and sign up for it. So, all right. And so to get back out of my gradebook history, I think I can just click on grades over on the left. Yep, so that brings me back. So the history is a good way to be able to double check if something happened or not. And you can prove that no, the grade did not change. You always had an 8 out of a 10. Nothing got changed. You can prove also that way that nothing was changed. No, you did not have a 10. So let's see. The next thing, we did the view. We'll look at our actions. This is where if you want to export your gradebook to save a hard copy, some people export the gradebook just because then they'll have an Excel spreadsheet with the student names and email addresses if they want to keep that for some reason. If you export the gradebook, you can also do grading on that gradebook and then import it back in. So I can export my gradebook, add a bunch of scores onto an Excel spreadsheet, and then import them back into Canvas. That is possible for people that really like doing grading outside of Canvas with a spreadsheet. So we have all of these different columns. Each of these columns has some options too. So we'll start out here with our paper 1, and I'm going to click on those 3 dots. All right, I can sort this specific column a certain way. Excuse me. Do I want to see the grades from highest to lowest to see who got the highest grade? All of the columns will be rearranged, but they'll be rearranged so that the highest grade for this exact item is going to be at the top. All right. Do I want to order by who's it's missing or late? So that way if I want to be able to see, okay, who hasn't turned in this assignment yet? Does make a lot of sense maybe when I've got 3, 4 students in here, but if you've got a lot of students, this can be nice. You can see who exactly is missing this assignment or who turned it in late. I already showed you the link to the Speedgrader. We have this message students who. If I click on that, I can message a particular subgroup of students. One is haven't submitted yet. Okay, it automatically will populate with any student who has not turned in this paper yet. And the subject is automatically no submission for paper 1. And then I could say something like, hey, I see that you haven't turned this in yet and it's due tonight. Don't forget. It's going to automatically send that email to this student. My other options haven't been graded. So if you've got a bunch of students that you haven't done the grading yet, you know you're going to be out for 2, 3 days where you're not going to do any grading, you can say, okay, anyone who has not been graded yet, I'm going to send a message and tell them I will not be doing any more grading till Monday, but next week you'll be able to, I'll have that grade to you, something like that. Our other options are scored less than or more than. So if I do scored less than a particular amount, so it scored less than, and then how much? This is a 30 point, so anyone who did less than, say, 20, it automatically populates, and it shows me the student had an 18. The subject scored less than a 20 on the paper, and then I can send them something like, hey, you might want to reread this chapter because it's going to be on the exam, something like that. If you want to do a shout out to a specific student that did really good, anyone who scored more than, say like a 25, okay, train 1 got a 29, so I want to send something to them, hey, great job, on this paper, something like that. So these items are automatically populated by which students meet this criteria. These are also sent as a blind carbon copy, so students aren't going to see who else got it. So if I do a scored less than, I'm not going to see, oh, look, all these other students did bad too. I'm not going to be able to tell that. So, all right, so I'm just going to cancel. Let's see. We'll admit that there's ability to curve grades, but I know nothing about it. When you click on it, it gives you this great big scary warning about how you can't undo. So basically, I've never really played around with that for that reason. So default grade is, say if you've got something like some sort of a discussion or something that you're just trying to get students' opinion, but you want to give points for those that do it, you can set a default grade. Anyone who submitted to that discussion will automatically be given a certain number of points. That's what the default grade is. Hiding grades are if I realize, hey, I made a mistake. I entered the wrong grade for a specific student. I just want to hide all the grades so that students can't see them until I fix things. Click on hide grades. Once you've hidden them, then you'll have a unhide grades, and that'll just temporarily hide those grades for the students while you play around and fix them. If you want to change grade from points to percent, you can, or the opposite way. Do you want to download all the submissions? I'm going up north where I have no internet connection. I just want to download all their papers so that I can look at them and read them on my computer up north with no internet. Once I'm done doing grading on them, I can upload those back into Canvas. So that's the download. And then we already looked at the grade posting policy. If I want to set this to manually release those grades when I'm ready, that's what that would be. All right, so those are the options for each item, graded item. I also have the option with the student column, and there are some different options in here. How do I want to sort them? By name, by their user ID, by their login, that type of thing, A to Z, or do I want to do it Z to A? That's what order the students' names are in. Display, do I want last name first or first name first? I can change the order. Secondary information. If we look here, it has the student name and it has their username underneath. That's because on secondary information, I have username checked. If I had none, it would just list the student names. But instead, I would go here and do username, and that way their username is listed, which might come in handy. We had an instructor that actually had 2 students with the exact same first, middle, and last name. So the only way she knew which one when she was doing her grading was by going by their username. So that's something you can have display. Some of the others don't really matter because SSID is like their student number, and so most instructors don't know students' SID anyway. If I do section, it's going to show me which section that they're in. So if you have 2 sections, you can see which one they're in. And again, it's going to remember these, so you would have to come in and turn off. Now this show inactive and concluded, you don't need to worry about that. That's not something we do here at SVSU anyway. If they drop the course, they're just removed automatically, so you don't have to worry about those. Let's see. For a quiz, no one has taken any of my quizzes. If it's a quiz with all multiple choice, true, false, that kind of a thing, Canvas automatically grades it for you. But if you want to view a student's quiz, you can come in, click on this, click on Speedgrader, and then you're going to see that student's quiz. And this is just there's no actual quiz, it's just a placeholder, but you would be able to view their quiz here, look at all the questions, all of their answers, and you could override if you realize there was a mistake on a question, or if it was essay questions, you'd come in here and read. You'd have the ability to add points for each item specifically if you wanted to. So that's what the Speedgrader also works with quizzes. So for assignments, it'll show you the assignment they uploaded. For quizzes, it will show you their quiz. And for discussions, you'll see just their discussion posts. Let me look at my list quick. I think I covered everything, but I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Kind of jumped around a little. Okay, yep, that looks like everything that I have to cover, but do we have any questions about rubrics, assignments, or the gradebook itself? Manual grading. So manual grading is, I don't want students to see their grades until I've graded everybody's. So this is something that it's a big assignment. It's going to take me 2 weeks to do all of my grading. So by setting this as manual, and I'll show you again on something, if I click on it and then I do grade posting policy and I choose manual, that means this specific item only is going to be set for manual grading. And so now I can go in and enter grades, and when I enter grades in, it's not going to show those to the student. So students won't see a grade here at all. So let me just enter a couple of grades. This one, say excuse, this one a 20. Now grades were already entered here before. This shows the hidden. It gets a little goofy because I already had grades entered for this one. Students that I entered grades already might already see them. You want to set it to manual before you do any grading. So say if I do it here for this discussion, and I do grade posting policy, and then I say manual, and then I save. Now this is set to manual. I enter some scores, and see that paper came up showing me that it's hidden. This, because grades were entered before I set it to manual, probably the students that I graded before I set it to manual can see it. So that's why the eye icon is not there. Not everybody's is hidden. And let's click in on a student and see. Let me enter a grade for this one too real quick. Now let me go into this student's grade and look. So grades. Okay, there we go. And so they're seeing this because I entered that excused in before I set it to manual. They are able to see it. The other one was a discussion one. Wait a minute. Yeah, so see paper discussion 2, that eyeball icon is showing instructor is working on grades. So the student can see that you are working on grades, but that they are not able to see it. Because I entered this excused before I set it to manual, the student is able to see that grade. So you definitely want to set it to be manual before you do any actual grading. The manual that is up here, if I click on the gear icon and then I do grade posting policy and set it manual here, that means every single item in your gradebook will be set to manual, and you'll have to automatically release each one separately. So once I've entered in all my grades for quiz 1, students won't see their grades until I come in here and then I change the grade posting policy from manual to automatic. So that would be for every single item in your gradebook rather than just some. And especially with quizzes, if you do online quizzes, students like being able to see the grade as soon as they click on submit. So most instructors don't usually want to have a manual for quizzes. So does that answer your question, or do you have any other questions about? Okay, good. All right, so do we have any other questions about grading in Canvas, rubrics, assignments, any of that? All right, if we don't have any questions, then I'm done. That was everything I had. If you do end up with questions later, just put in a ticket to our email support, and one of us would be happy to answer whatever questions you have. So sometimes even instructors will have created something. Can you double check and make sure I've got this set up correctly? Feel free to put in a ticket or email support about that too, and we'd be happy to go look and give you some advice on what you have set up. So. All right, thank you everyone for attending.